Yakutsk is located in the heart of Siberia, where winter lasts 9 months, and summer feels like a fleeting dream. This is a city of 300,000 people, living in conditions that would kill most humans, within hours of exposure. The January average temperature sits at -40 degrees Fahrenheit, but it regularly plunges to -58, -76, and in extreme cases, -95.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Here, every building, from the smallest house to the tallest apartment complex, seems to float above the ground, thanks to its concrete pillars. This is because beneath Yakutsk lies permafrost, ground that has been frozen solid for thousands of years. If you were to build directly on this frozen earth, the heat from your building would slowly melt the permafrost underneath. Within months, your structure would begin to sink. Within a year or two, the entire building would collapse into the thawing mud. To prevent this catastrophe, every structure in Yakutsk is elevated on pile foundations, creating a 6.5-foot air gap between the building and the ground. This allows the brutal -58 Fahrenheit winter wind to circulate freely underneath, keeping the permafrost frozen year-round. Walking through Yakutsk feels like navigating an alien cityscape. Children climb stairs just to reach the front door of their homes. Cars park in elevated lots, accessed by ramps. Even the smallest shed sits perched on stilts like a watchtower. While Yakutsk is the coldest city, Oymyakon is the coldest permanently inhabited place on the planet. It is known globally as the Pole of Cold. In 1924, a temperature of -96.2 degrees Fahrenheit was recorded here. To put that into perspective, that is colder than the average surface temperature on Mars. Ironically, the name Oymyakon actually means water that does not freeze. This refers to a nearby hot spring, which allows reindeer herders to water their flocks, even during the freezing days of winter. Life in Oymyakon is a masterclass in adaptation. Most households still use outdoor pit toilets because indoor plumbing would freeze and burst instantly. Schools only close if the temperature drops below -61.6 degrees Fahrenheit. If you stand outside unprotected, your eyelashes will grow heavy with frost in seconds, and the moisture on your eyeballs will start to crystallize, making every blink painful. Everything here is dictated by the cold. Ink freezes in pens. Batteries lose power in minutes. And if you take a cup of boiling water and throw it into the air, it turns into a cloud of ice dust before hitting the ground. A phenomenon known as the Mpemba effect. Mirny symbolizes human ambition, pushed to its absolute extreme. On the very edge of this small mining town sits one of the most terrifying man-made structures on Earth. The Mirny diamond mine is a gaping void in the ground, 1,722 feet deep and over 0.75 miles wide. This is the second largest excavated hole in the world, carved entirely by hand and machine, over decades of Soviet-era mining. Standing at the edge, you can see the entire town of Mirny clinging to the rim, as if the earth might swallow it whole at any moment. The mine is so massive that it creates its own weather system. Helicopters are banned from flying directly over the pit because the downdraft can pull aircraft into the abyss. At the bottom of this colossal pit, temperatures remain frigid, even in summer. The mine produced some of the world's finest diamonds, gemstones formed under unimaginable pressure deep within the earth. Now extracted through brute human force. In one of the coldest regions on the planet, the Mirny mine is a monument to what humans will endure for wealth and resources. It is also a stark reminder that in places like Yakutia, even the ground beneath your feet is a resource to be exploited, no matter the cost. Today, the open pit mine is closed, but its legacy remains. If you venture further into the Yakutian wilderness, you will encounter something that looks like a wound in the earth itself. The Batagaika Crater, known locally as the Gateway to Hell, is a thermokarst depression, over 0.62 miles long and 282 feet deep. This is not a meteor impact or a volcanic caldera. This is the Earth collapsing as ancient permafrost melts and gives way. The crater is expanding at a rate of 33 to 49 feet per year, consuming forest and tundra as it grows. What makes Batagaika truly extraordinary is what it reveals. As the permafrost collapses, it exposes layers of frozen earth that have been locked away for 200,000 years. Scientists have discovered ancient forests, perfectly preserved in ice, dating back to periods when the climate was radically different. But Batagaika is also a warning. Climate change is accelerating the thawing of Siberian permafrost, releasing massive amounts of methane and carbon dioxide, trapped for millennia. This crater is not just a geological curiosity. It is a preview of what could happen across vast stretches of the Arctic as global temperatures rise. Along the banks of the Lena River, nature has sculpted one of the most breathtaking landscapes on Earth. The Lena pillars are vertical rock formations, rising up to 328 feet above the water, stretching for 24.8 miles along the river. These pillars are the result of millions of years of erosion. The Cambrian limestone, formed over 500 million years ago, has been carved by wind, water, and the freeze-thaw cycle into shapes that resemble ancient towers, cathedrals, and alien architecture in winter. The pillars are encased in ice and snow, transforming the landscape into a frozen cathedral. In summer, they stand stark and golden against the blue sky. The Lena Pillars are a United Nations educational, scientific, and cultural organization World Heritage Site, recognized not just for their beauty, but for their geological significance. Fossils embedded in the rock tell the story of life on Earth during the Cambrian explosion, a period when most major groups of animals first appeared. Standing before these formations, you are looking at a monument to deep time, a place where the history of life itself is written in stone. The Buluus Glacier is a massive sheet of pristine white ice, surrounded by green grass, wildflowers, and deciduous trees. The Buluus Glacier exists due to a unique combination of underground springs and the insulating properties of the surrounding terrain. Cold water from deep underground flows into a depression where it freezes during winter. The thick layer of soil and vegetation above acts as insulation, preventing the ice from melting. Even when summer temperatures climb above 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Locals have known about this glacier for generations, using it as a natural refrigerator to preserve food and drink during the brief but intense Siberian summer. Scientists study it as an example of how microclimates can create pockets of extreme cold, even in otherwise warm environments. For visitors, it is a surreal experience to stand on a glacier in midsummer, surrounded by blooming flowers and buzzing insects. Not all locations in Yakutia are marvels of nature or human ingenuity. Some are monuments to human cruelty and suffering. The Kolyma Highway, stretching over 1,242 miles through the Siberian wilderness, is known by a much darker name, the Road of Bones. During the Stalin era, this road was constructed by prisoners of the Gulag labor camp system. Tens of thousands of men and women, convicted of political crimes, or simply caught in the machinery of Soviet repression, were forced to build this road through some of the harshest terrain on Earth. Many died from cold, starvation, exhaustion, and disease. The permafrost was too hard to dig proper graves, so the bodies of those who perished were placed directly into the roadbed. The road itself became their tomb. Today, the Kolyma Highway remains a vital transportation link, but driving along it is a haunting experience. Every kilometer represents countless lives lost, buried beneath the asphalt and gravel. Deep in the Yakutian wilderness stands a town frozen, not just by cold, but by time itself. Kadykchan is a Soviet-era mining town that was abandoned almost overnight in the 1990s. Walking through its empty streets feels like stepping into a post-apocalyptic film. Except this is real. Apartment buildings stand, with windows broken and curtains still hanging inside. Schools remain, with textbooks open on desks, as if students simply vanished mid-lesson. Toys lie scattered in playgrounds, with swings creaking in the wind. This is not gradual decay. This is a snapshot of life interrupted. In 1996, a catastrophic explosion at the local coal mine killed several workers. The Soviet Union had already collapsed, and the Russian government decided it was not economically viable to continue supporting this remote settlement. Residents were given mere days to pack their belongings and evacuate. Those who could not afford to move their furniture simply left everything behind. Today, Kadykchan is a monument to the fragility of human habitation in extreme environments. Without constant economic investment and infrastructure support, entire communities can be erased from the map. The buildings are slowly being reclaimed by nature, but the permafrost preserves everything in a state of eerie suspension. Papers from the 1990s remain readable. Photographs still hang on walls. This is a time capsule of a world that no longer exists. While Kadykchan represents abandonment, the Permafrost Museum in Yakutsk represents human determination to turn extreme cold into an advantage. This is not a typical museum. It is a network of tunnels carved directly into the permanently frozen ground, maintaining a constant temperature of 14 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. The museum was originally built as a Soviet-era ice cellar, a natural refrigeration system that required no electricity. Scientists realized that the permafrost provided a stable, unchanging environment, perfect for research and preservation. Today, visitors descend into the frozen earth to explore tunnels lined with ice sculptures, mammoth remains, and exhibits, explaining the science of permafrost. The contrast is surreal. Outside, summer temperatures can reach 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside the museum, you need a winter coat even in July. The walls glitter with ice crystals. Your breath forms clouds in the air. This underground kingdom demonstrates how Yakutians have learned to work with the cold rather than against it. Among all the mammoth specimens discovered in Yakutia, one stands out as the most perfectly preserved. Yana is a baby mammoth who died at just 1 year old, approximately 50,000 years ago. Her body was discovered in the Batagaika Crater, exposed by the collapsing permafrost. What makes Yana extraordinary is the completeness of her preservation. She still has her trunk, her head is intact, and much of her soft tissue remains. Scientists can see the texture of her skin, the individual hairs of her fur, and even the contents of her stomach from her last meal. Yana likely fell into icy water or mud and was immediately frozen, preventing bacteria and scavengers from decomposing her body. For 50 millennia, she remained encased in ice, hidden from the world. Now, as climate change accelerates the melting of Siberian permafrost, more and more of these ancient creatures are being revealed. The discovery of specimens like Yana raises profound questions. If we can clone a mammoth, should we? What ethical responsibilities do we have toward creatures we bring back from extinction? And what does it mean that climate change is simultaneously revealing these ancient treasures while threatening to destroy the very permafrost that preserved them? Not all of Yakutia's frozen wonders are ancient. Some are alive today, demonstrating evolutionary adaptations that border on the miraculous. The Siberian salamander is a small amphibian with an extraordinary ability. It can survive being frozen solid at temperatures as low as -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Most animals would die instantly if ice crystals formed in their cells. Ice expands as it freezes, rupturing cell membranes and causing irreversible damage. The Siberian salamander has evolved a remarkable solution. It produces high concentrations of glycerol and other cryoprotectants that act like biological antifreeze, preventing ice crystals from forming inside its cells. When winter arrives, these salamanders allow themselves to freeze. Their hearts stop beating, their blood stops flowing. They enter a state of suspended animation that can last for months. When spring arrives and temperatures rise, they thaw out and resume normal activity as if nothing happened. There are reports, though not scientifically verified, of salamanders being found frozen in permafrost and reviving after decades or even centuries of being encased in ice. While these claims remain controversial, the salamander's proven ability to survive freezing makes such scenarios at least theoretically possible. If the Siberian salamander demonstrates cellular-level adaptation to cold, the Yakutian horse shows how quickly evolution can reshape an entire species. These small, stocky horses, with thick, shaggy coats, live outdoors year-round, in temperatures that regularly drop to -76 degrees Fahrenheit. What makes the Yakutian horse truly remarkable is the speed of their adaptation. Genetic studies show that these horses diverged from their ancestors and developed their extreme cold tolerance in less than 800 years. This is one of the fastest documented cases of mammalian adaptation to a new environment. The Yakutian horse has evolved multiple strategies for surviving Siberian winters. Their metabolic rate increases dramatically in winter, generating internal heat. Their coat grows incredibly dense, with individual hairs that are hollow and filled with air for superior insulation. They develop thick layers of subcutaneous fat. Their blood vessels constrict in their extremities to preserve core body heat. These horses do not seek shelter. They do not need heated barns. They simply stand in the open tundra, enduring temperatures that would kill most horse breeds. Within hours, they paw through snow to find frozen grass, which they consume to maintain their caloric intake. The Yakutian horse is a living example of how evolution can rapidly rewire an organism when survival demands it. Not all of Yakutia's remarkable features are biological or geological. Some are technological. Engineers have installed over 4,349 and 6/10 miles of fiber optic cable across the region, not just for internet connectivity, but as a massive environmental monitoring system. Using a technology called distributed acoustic sensing, or DAS, scientists have turned these fiber optic cables into giant microphones that listen to the Earth itself. When permafrost thaws, it creates subtle seismic vibrations. When ice sheets crack, they generate acoustic waves. When the ground shifts, the fiber optic cables detect the changes. This system allows researchers to monitor permafrost stability across vast areas in real time. Traditional monitoring would require thousands of individual sensors, each needing power and maintenance, in one of the most remote and inhospitable regions on Earth. The fiber optic DAS system leverages existing infrastructure, turning communication cables into scientific instruments. Despite the overwhelming cold and the months of darkness, Yakutia experiences a brief but intense summer. During this time, unique ecosystems called Alaases come to life. These are circular depressions in the permafrost that fill with lush grass, wildflowers, and even small lakes during the warm months. Alaases form when underground ice melts, causing the ground above to collapse into a shallow basin. These depressions create microclimates where water collects, soil develops, and vegetation thrives. For the brief Siberian summer, Alaases transform into vibrant oases of life in an otherwise harsh landscape. Local herders depend on Alaases for grazing land. The Yakutian horses and cattle feed on the rich grass that grows in these depressions, building up fat reserves to survive the coming winter. Without Alaases, large-scale animal husbandry would be nearly impossible in this subarctic desert. But Alaases also represent the dynamic nature of permafrost landscapes. As climate change progresses, more and more permafrost is melting, creating new Alaases and expanding existing ones. While this might seem beneficial for grazing, it also signals the destabilization of the frozen ground that has defined this region for thousands of years. There is a phenomenon in Yakutsk that exists nowhere else on Earth, something you can only experience when the temperature drops below -40 degrees Fahrenheit. The locals call it the whisper of the stars, and it is one of the most haunting sounds you will ever hear. When you exhale, in these extreme temperatures, the moisture in your breath does not simply disappear into vapor. Instead, it freezes instantly into microscopic ice crystals suspended in the air. As you continue breathing, these crystals collide with each other, creating a soft, metallic rustling sound. It is like listening to thousands of tiny wind chimes made of ice, ringing with each breath you take. The whisper of the stars is not dangerous, but it serves as an immediate reminder of how cold the air truly is. When you can hear your own breath crystallizing, you know you are in an environment where exposed skin will freeze in minutes, and unprotected lungs can suffer frostbite. From the inside, this phenomenon occurs only in the coldest inhabited places on Earth, and Yakutsk experiences it regularly. Throughout the winter months, for residents, the whisper of the stars is simply part of life. For visitors, it is a moment of profound realization. You are not just visiting a cold place, you are experiencing conditions at the absolute edge of human survival, where even the act of breathing creates visible and audible proof of the extreme environment surrounding you. In Yakutsk, car ownership comes with a unique challenge. That seems absurd to people living in warmer climates. For 6 months of the year, car owners never turn off their engines. If a vehicle stops running for more than a few hours, in temperatures below -40 degrees Fahrenheit, the consequences are catastrophic. Engine oil thickens into a gel-like substance, making it impossible for the engine to turn over. Battery acid freezes solid, rendering the battery completely useless. Fuel lines can freeze, blocking the flow of gasoline or diesel. Tires lose all flexibility and can crack or shatter under the vehicle's weight. Essentially, a car that stops in extreme cold becomes a useless block of frozen metal. To prevent this, residents keep their cars running continuously throughout the winter. Parking lots in Yakutsk are filled with the constant rumble of idling engines, clouds of exhaust rising into the frozen air. Some people install special engine block heaters that run on electricity, allowing them to turn off the engine while keeping critical components warm. Others park in heated garages, a luxury that costs significant money. In a city where heating expenses already consume a large portion of household income, the alternative to keeping engines running is labor-intensive and time-consuming. If a car does freeze, owners must use blowtorches to heat the engine block, oil pan, and battery before attempting to start it. This process can take hours and carries the risk of fire or explosion. If done incorrectly, the immortality of the engine is not a choice, but a necessity. In the coldest city on Earth. If you visit the outdoor markets of Yakutsk in winter, you will witness a sight that seems impossible. Rows and rows of fish, standing upright like wooden planks, frozen solid in the open air. There is no refrigeration, no ice, no cooling equipment whatsoever. The fish are simply placed outside, where the ambient temperature keeps them, in a state of perfect preservation. This is the origin of Stroganina, a traditional Yakut dish, consisting of thin shavings of frozen raw fish. To prepare it, vendors use sharp knives to carve paper-thin slices from the rock-hard fish, which is often whitefish, salmon, or Arctic cisco. The shavings are eaten immediately, sometimes with salt and pepper, while still frozen. The texture is unique, somewhere between sashimi and ice, and the flavor is clean and intense. Stroganina is not just a culinary tradition, it is a survival food, developed over centuries by people living in an environment where keeping food fresh through conventional means was impossible. Freezing happened naturally, and the extreme cold ensured that bacteria could not grow. In fact, frozen fish in Yakutsk can be stored outdoors for months without any degradation in quality. The fish markets also sell frozen meat, berries, and dairy products, all stored in the open air. Walking through these markets in winter feels like visiting a supermarket, where the freezer section is the entire city. Vendors wear multiple layers of clothing, their faces covered except for their eyes, standing beside their frozen wares, in temperatures that would incapacitate most people within minutes. In rural Yakutia, modern conveniences, like indoor plumbing, do not exist, not because of poverty or lack of development, but because the environment makes them physically impossible. Water pipes, buried underground, would freeze and burst. Pipes above ground would do the same. Even heated pipes require constant energy input, an expense most rural families cannot afford. Instead, families harvest ice from the frozen rivers. During winter, the ice on Yakutian rivers can reach thicknesses of over 6.5 feet. This ice is exceptionally pure, often appearing blue or crystal clear, due to the lack of air bubbles and impurities. Families use saws, axes, and sometimes motorized tools to cut large blocks of ice, which they transport home and stack outside their houses. Throughout the year, they bring these blocks inside, as needed, melting them for drinking water, cooking, and washing. The ice remains frozen outdoors, even during the brief summer, as long as it is stored in shaded areas or covered with insulating materials. This method of water procurement has been used for generations and remains the most practical solution in regions where infrastructure cannot withstand the extreme cold. Harvesting the blue ice is labor-intensive and dangerous. People must venture onto frozen rivers, where ice thickness can vary and weak spots can lead to deadly falls through the ice into the freezing water below. After enduring 9 months of brutal cold and darkness, the people of Yakutia celebrate the arrival of summer with Isyak, the Festival of the Sun. This is not just a cultural event, it is a psychological and social necessity, a communal explosion of joy and vitality. After months of cryogenic isolation, Isyak takes place during the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, when the sun barely sets and the land is bathed in nearly 24 hours of daylight. Thousands of people gather in open fields, dressed in traditional white clothing, decorated with vibrant patterns. The color white symbolizes purity, renewal, and the triumph of light over darkness. The festival includes traditional Yakut sports, music, dancing, and the consumption of kumis, a fermented mare's milk beverage that holds cultural and spiritual significance. There are horse races, wrestling matches, and communal feasts featuring traditional foods. Shamanic rituals are performed to honor the spirits of nature and ensure a bountiful year ahead. But beyond the cultural rituals, Isyak serves a deeper purpose. It is a survival mechanism, a way for a community to reaffirm its bonds and celebrate the fact that they have survived another winter. Another interesting fact is that the indigenous Yakut people have developed genetic adaptations that allow them to survive in conditions where most other people cannot. Scientific studies have shown that Yakut people have significantly higher basal metabolic rates compared to populations living in temperate climates. This means their bodies generate more internal heat, even at rest. Their blood lipid profiles are also unique, with higher concentrations of certain fats that improve circulation and cold tolerance. These adaptations are not cultural or learned. They are biological, coded into the DNA of people whose ancestors have lived in this region for thousands of years. Evolution has shaped the Yakut people into a population uniquely suited to extreme cold, capable of thriving on a diet that is nearly 100% fat and protein, with very little carbohydrate. The Yakut diet traditionally consists of frozen fish, horse meat, reindeer, and dairy products, all foods that provide the high caloric density necessary to fuel the body's increased heat production. The genetic resilience of the Yakut people is a testament to the power of natural selection over millennia. Those who could not survive the cold died, while those with even slight advantages in heat generation, circulation, or fat metabolism passed their genes to the next generation. The result is a population that has become, quite literally, built for the cold. If this journey through the coldest place on Earth has changed how you think about extreme environments and human capability, make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss future explorations into the most remarkable places on our planet. Leave a comment below telling me which location surprised you the most, or if there are other extreme environments you want to see covered.